So, good morning, DevOps. Today is the last day of the conference. I hope you enjoyed it so far. Only a few talks left, and one of those talks is building blockchain apps with zero knowledge. I'm Davy. I am the co-founder and CTO of two companies, two products, Arkane Network and FundRequest. And during this talk, we will be doing a hands-on coding session, building a application that communicates with a blockchain. And that's always a bit risky, so that's why I brought Quinten here with me. He will be doing that. But first, let's have a look. What is the role actually of a blockchain inside applications? If we don't have the time to go into deep dive here, so we will do the high-level stuff that are interesting for using a blockchain. So first of all, the higher degree of security and trust. So there's actually no necessity for a third party anymore due to its decentralized nature. Also, integrating digital and the physical world. So if you want to identify assets, it can be done like in the physical world and identify it on a blockchain, and in a way that you can identify it and know who the owner is of that asset. As well, that it's quite easy to use. And by that I mean if you have to transfer some money right now from, let's say, here in Belgium to Australia, China, or Russia, America, it always takes a while to see how do I have to do this. I have to trust some third party that I don't use that often. And it can take a while for the money to arrive, and there are quite some transfer fees that I need to pay on top of it. And if you were to use it with a blockchain, it can be quite cheap to do it, and it's done quite fast as well. It can be up to seconds, minutes, hours, depending on which blockchain that you're using. So blockchain technology is a societal shift towards decentralization. If you look at the graph here, you see that there are a lot of decentralized applications being built right now. And in the beginning, it was more like a linear growth. And then from May 2017, we got an exponential growth. And there's no sign of really stopping down. Interesting is that most of the applications right now are on the Ethereum blockchain. And most of them are currently live. Right in production. If you have looked at this graph like 6 months ago, it would have been completely the other way around. And this is also what we did. We created a decentralized application called FundRequest. And FundRequest is a marketplace for open source software development. It's a place where companies, enterprises can come together with developers. And it allows actually companies, when they have an issue with open source software, to create an incentivization for developers or for other developers or the maintainer of the repository to fix the issue or to create an enhancement on their product. And how does it work on a global overview? So on the left side here, we have the company, the enterprise, that has a problem with some open source software, and currently it's on GitHub in this case. He creates the issue on GitHub. Probably he will start talking first with the maintainer of that repository to see whether it is even possible. And then he has the issue created, and he adds an incentivization to it. In this case, it's in the form of cryptocurrencies, a token. FundRequest has built a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain, where using our web page, our web application, you can communicate directly with the blockchain and then add a record in the blockchain stating, okay, this issue now has this reward available if a developer fixes it. So right now it's indisputable available on the blockchain. So the developers themselves can trust it because there's no third party. But if he fixes the issue, it will get paid. We also have a more traditional backend available that monitors events on the blockchain. He notices, okay, there is a new record being added, and I will add a comment on the GitHub issue so that everybody knows now that there's a reward available for this issue that needs to be fixed. Once the developer has a fix available, he will probably create a pull request for it. If it's accepted, and with accepted we mean it gets merged, then the reward, he can claim the reward of that issue, and then he will get paid, and you have the cryptocurrency, the developer has the cryptocurrency available, and the company is happy because his issue is fixed. And right now we're using GitHub, but in the future we're looking to expand to other platforms like Bitbucket and GitLab. But we noticed actually that there are there's a struggle with adoption of the platform. And actually there are a lot of decentralized applications that have this issue right now. So in general, there is an issue with the adoption. And to go into deeper that, we will first have a look on what the typical adoption of a blockchain is. So in the first phase, in the first wave, we have the basic tooling, which is the protocol, so the blockchain itself, and then a digital wallet that allows you to start interacting with the blockchain. But it's not that user-friendly, so it's definitely not for everybody. In the second wave, there will be even more tooling available and more for end users already. Like you have DApp extensions, which are actually browser extensions that allow you to communicate with the blockchain, and that you have wallets in there available. So that's in the second wave, and that's a bit where we're at right now. In the future, we would like to see more dApps that are being offered as a service. They are already available right now. It's just not easy to start using them. Probably they will have some kind of in-app wallets or something like that. Really more focusing on the service level. Of course, we will need to go to a blockchain interoperability, where blockchains can start communicating, and that it's possible to start creating decentralized applications across blockchains. And in the far future, that all those decentralized applications can start working together to creating a real network of decentralized applications that are flexible, scalable, and innovative. But what are the issues with it right now? The main focus of many projects is on their own projects, which is not surprisingly, of course, because they want to build the best product that they can build. The entry into crypto is quite complicated, and this is actually from an application point of view as from a user point of view. If you're an application or a developer, you really need to understand more the details on how specific blockchains work. If you want to start talking with or communicating with the Ethereum blockchain, you need to know, okay, how does a transaction, how is it submitted, when is it processed, and everything around that. How are wallets being created? How do I have to import the wallets or talk to wallets? And then from a user point of view, you need the extra tools, for example, the browser extension, which is already a hurdle for a lot of people. And then what is actually a wallet? Because you have to start explaining what a wallet is, because it's not clear for everybody what that is. And with a wallet, you have something called a public-private key pair. And then, yeah, what does that mean? Because for a lot of end users, this is a concept that is not known. And then they have to start creating backups out of it. And like we saw in the end of last year and the beginning of this year, there is a crypto rush that can lead to a bubble. So there are a lot of people that are doing speculation and are not really the users for the decentralized applications. So that gives a false idea of adoption. So these are some questions that we got back in a FundRequest, where we see that people are struggling with it. So people asking, right on the bottom here, in the settings I need to provide an Ether address, what is it, or where can I create it? So at that point you have to guide the user in creating a wallet. What is a wallet? Where do you have to create it? So you really have to start explaining everything. If you were to compare it with traditional ways of like funding or something with a credit card, then it would be like explaining what is a bank, what is a credit card, where do you get a credit card at the bank. That's you want to help the user, but of course it's kind of hard to start explaining all those details already. Yeah, and then of course the question, I want to fund an issue, can I do this with my credit card? I filled in the wrong address when claiming the bounty. Could you send it to my other address? Yeah, of course, that's not possible anymore. It's being transferred already, so it's gone. Then on Reddit, we saw as well most programmers don't understand blockchain. I think that's more related to the fact that we're still in the first adoption phases, to be honest. But then you see a lot of people talking about private keys that are lost. So probably you will have seen in the beginning of this year in the newspapers that people lost their private keys and lost millions of dollars because of it. And somebody has his computer on some kind in the trash or something. But that's mainly also related to the fact that it's hard for users to do this. They have to know they really have to know what they're doing when they're creating a wallet. They have something called a private key pair or a mnemonic phrase, and then they need to create a backup out of it. But a lot of end users already are struggling with decent password management, and then suddenly they are faced with something they need to create a backup out of, and that they cannot lose it or they won't have access anymore, which is of course really an issue. And yeah, a lot of wallets right now are being created on something like this on your smartphone. Now, if I would have to name an electronic device that has the most chance of breaking down in the near future, it will be this one. They try to force you into creating a backup, like writing down your mnemonic phrase on a piece of paper or like on your computer. But of course, you know in practice how that will go. So people will start writing it down here, something on a piece of paper, and then putting it in there. And then, of course, after 6 months, they lose it, and then they need to restore it. And then, yeah, of course, they don't find it anymore. And actually, like if you write it down on a piece of paper, it could be that you afterwards throw it in the garbage, and that's also an issue because if somebody else finds it, it's game over. Because once you lose that private key, yeah, the person has access, and it's not like you can call CardStop or something to say this person cannot have access anymore. You basically lost that account or that wallet. So this brings us to the fact that your key is actually at risk. This is like some screenshots from currently some decentralized applications where they have to start communicating, they have to use your wallet to sign a transaction. So they need access to it, and a lot of them offer the way of using your private key, so putting in your private key, which is of course it's a bad idea from a security point of view. Again, because if you lose it, then it's gone forever. And then because you don't know always all the time that you're talking to the correct application. So it could be some kind of phishing website, and if you put it in there, then you lose it. And once you lose it, yeah, it's game over. And yeah, users need to manage this because if you think about it, they create a backup out of it, but where do you store that backup? Do you keep it in, just write it down and keep it in your house? Probably not the best idea, because if then your house burns down or something, then it's also gone. So then you keep it in a remote location, but then it needs to be safe in a remote location so that nobody can find it. So you really have something that is actually for most users very hard to do. The idea is actually your private key should be private. So don't leak it, because if you fill it in everywhere, then you will lose it. There's a company, Mainframe in this case, that actually stated a bit the current landscape for decentralized applications, and it addresses the same things that I already am mentioning here, but it's done in a funny way, so I thought it would be very relevant to show here. Waar doet hij dat ook al? I'm gonna search it. Waar staat dat? Even lokaal opzetten. skip it a bit to over here.
This is 2018. I only accept cryptocurrency here, preferably Lemon Coin.
I don't have whatever a lemon coin is.
Well, Lemon Coin's my utility token. It doesn't have a lot of utility yet, but we're working on it. One day it might go to $1.
Cool. I don't have lemon coin.
Fine. I'll also take Bitcoin or Doge.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'll come back for you someday.
What? You need like 200 of those.
How much is one Doge even worth?
One Doge always equals one Doge.
Okay, fine. How do I get lemon coin? Why is this so difficult?
I can sense your frustration. Think about it. It's the future of business. A trustless system without third parties. So to get Lemon Coin, I just need you to create an account on this third-party exchange.
I'm going to need your passport, bank info, social security number, and a selfie with today's date.
I thought you said this was a trustless system.
Oh, it is as soon as the exchange trusts you.
You could trust us. We are the #1 crypto exchange in all of Krashimia.
I don't think that's a real country.
Look,
Kremlin.
you can make this an
Croatia.
easy transaction if you just follow the protocol, okay?
Okay.
Smile. Say KYC. Okay, so this will take 3 to 5 days to process. After that, when you are approved, you would probably not be notified. So check back in a week or so.
This is ridiculous. You're telling me that if anybody wants to buy lemonade, they need to go through this process?
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is the future of business. I've already got like a dozen customers.
Lemonade. Please.
Congratulations. Your account is verified, funds deposited. You have a private key. The key number is 0x225D998569. That's my favorite number. C47D192999A. Now, if you forget this private code, do not worry, you have a mnemonic phrase. The mnemonic phrase is Magna, Volatile, Mice, Juggle, Sweary, Ubiquitous, Nudist. Do not forget or else all your funds will be lost forever. Okay, thank you. Bye.
What? Mice? Nudists? What? Juggle? Did he just say that my funds can be lost forever?
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. It can be a little overwhelming at first.
Okay, I mean, whatever, I'm thirsty.
Okay, the video goes on a bit, but we're gonna stop it here because the most important stuff is mentioned here. A small spoiler: he will be able to buy the lemonade. So to recap, what are mainly adoption issues right now? So it's mainly Ethereum projects. Onboarding into crypto is hard. It's actually hard from a user point of view, from an application point of view. The wallet management. Users need to manage a wallet that they don't know what that actually is. And then an application needs some way to access the wallet. Currently, there's a lot of focus on the coin price, so speculation. And yeah, Lemon Coin actually states it quite well. So we had the same issues in FundRequest, and we were thinking about solution, how we could fix it. And we come up with a solution, but then suddenly we thought, okay, actually this solution can be used by other decentralized applications as well. So we are introducing Arcane. Actually, we introduced it already because it's already live. And it's the gateway for blockchain and application. It serves as a layer between the blockchain and the actual application by providing REST APIs and a common interface across blockchains. So you can start communicating with Ethereum or with VeChain in a way that is exactly the same from an application point of view, which is, of course, very interesting. And then using tools or APIs that or a REST API that people are already using right now, so you don't need to change any way of your development phase. But what can Arcane mean for you? There are different ways what it can mean for you. For example, for a blockchain, it can be very interesting to onboard new users. So if you're a new blockchain, then users need to know again how do they have to access it. So they need to create a digital wallet. They need to start syncing up probably the blockchain itself. Versus if they're using Arcane, then it will be exactly the same that they're doing like in Ethereum or in blockchain X or in blockchain Y. It will always be the same way. And then it will bring app developers way faster to your blockchain, because the tooling is way easier to start using, and it's the tooling that they're already using right now. And as well, the same thing for dev tools. So for a wallet, the wallet inside of Arcane is secure and recoverable. About security, Quinten will address that a bit later. And by default, we have them recoverable. And why is that? Because users right now, they have some user experience in using web applications, and they expect when they create an account that something is recoverable, that there is a way to reset or to recover their lost account. And that is why we have that by default in place. You can use the wallet inside of applications in an easy way. And actually for applications, the management and all around that for the wallets is being outsourced to Arcane. For an exchange, it's quite easy as well, because they need to know for like withdrawals or deposits, they need to have addresses. And with Arcane, then they can immediately have access to those wallets. Well, access, you need to provide them access, of course. And you could support automatic trading from there. Then a portfolio tracker. So if you want to keep track of your cryptocurrencies, is actually quite easy because there is a REST API available to get all the wallets for a user. And they don't have to do the wallet management themselves. And then for the application, so you actually bring blockchain to your application without any plugin needed. I think this is very important to stress that with this, you don't need a special DApp browser, a decentralized application browser, or any extension to be installed, which means that when a user comes to your decentralized application, he can start using it immediately on your mobile phone, on the standard web browsers. So it doesn't matter. You can have the native applications using it as well. And it supports multi-chains, of course. And again, you don't need to manage the wallets yourself. So what are the tool sets that we're often offering for application developers? First of all, it's the identity provider. So everybody that is using Arcane has an identity at Arcane. And this is actually a key cloak. This is an identity and access management platform from JBoss, and it allows users to start identifying themselves, and that you could allow, let's say, an application X to access your wallets. Then you need to first give your consent that it actually can do that, a bit like login with Google or login with Facebook. We have an Arcane front-end available, which is a management front-facing tool where you can see all your wallets, create new wallets, and simply like do the basic stuff for your wallet, see which applications have access to which wallets. There's the API available, which of course, like an API, the get wallets, so that you return which wallets are available and to submit transactions. And then you have Arcane Connect, which is actually a proxy around the API. And it manages as well the authentication for you. So if you're creating a web application and you're using Arcane Connect, you just use npm to install this package. And then you can start using it immediately by calling a few functions. And that's something that Quinten will give a demo of. But let's first get back to the key management. So if you want to do the key management right now, you have two options. You can let it completely be owned by a third party, like an exchange or a centralized wallet. and then you need to trust this. And actually, most of the crypto funds are behind a few addresses, so it's not really the same way. And then the other solution is that you completely own and manage it yourself, which of course with all the problems that we already addressed. But with Arcane, we are trying to offer a hybrid solution that only when two parties come together, being the user and Arcane, that the private key can become available to sign a transaction, so in a very limited time. And you then go to actually something that is called owned by the user but managed by Arcane. So we will do the hard parts like the backing ups for you. Get out. So we will have, there's a small video on how it's being implemented right now in Torblock. Torblock is a pooling service, so people can pool together to create one big pool of funds to do something with it. Yeah. So let's get back a bit. So here it's the basic homepage of Torblock, and then here you can. On the right top, you can do the login. They chose to simply use the Arcane identity provider for logging in. You can also have the simple connect with Arcane button and then have your own identity management. That's up to you to decide. So here I'm logging in with a special account for Devox. Then in this, that's the typical thing that what Torblock can see is the email address, view your addresses of your Arcane wallets, and sign transactions using your Arcane wallets. But always when you have to sign a transaction, you will always need to give your consent and give in a PIN code. So we will allow it. Then we get to the screen that where you can manage which wallets Torblock can actually see. So I already have 3 accounts here available, Fast Snail and Foxy Crocodile. And those 2 wallets are right now available in Torblock. So you can see that. And here you can see as well what the balance is of those wallets. If you go then to my pools, yeah, I have no pool yet created. So I will create a pool right now. I selected the Fast Snail in this case, given the basic details, and then click Deploy Contract. And right now, this is the screen that always will pop up. So it can pop up on any browser. So this, yeah, in this case, it's Chrome, but it works on any browser. It can work on your mobile phone as well. You see the details of the transaction. You fill in your PIN code, the correct PIN code, and then you can sign the transaction. And then you can follow up what happens on the blockchain with the transaction. And if you then go to your pools, once the transaction is mined, then it will become available for you. And the new pool is created. I think this is a much more user-friendly way than we're currently having right now. So if you then go to the front-facing application, so the management application, you see again the wallets that were created, and you can see that actually Torblock is connected to this wallet. So right now we will dive into how the keys are actually stored, but that's something that Quinten will start explaining.
All right, let me get back to the application, the presentation. All right, before we're going to do the live demo of the live coding session, I'm just going to briefly go over the encryption phase because, like Davy mentioned, previously there were 2 methods, like give the user the private key or hold on to the private key and don't give anything to the user. We have a hybrid solution. So the first thing we do is we bippity-boppity-boo create a private key. So after that, like if you used Ethereum before or any other blockchain, you can encrypt this private key with a key store and a password. That is exactly what we do. But the password is extremely complex, and it's encrypted with AES 128-bit encryption. Next up, we take the password and we split it. It's not a normal split. No, we use an algorithm called Shamir's secret sharing scheme. It's a handful. Basically, what this does is it splits it. So you get an input, one input, the password, and the 2 or more outputs. And you need a certain threshold. So, for example, 2 out of 2, 2 out of 3, to reconstruct the password. For recoverable wallets, it's going to be 3. For non-recoverable, it's going to be 2. One of the secrets is encrypted with the PIN code of the user. It's the one Davy entered. The other one is for the application, which we'll use when we create signatures, which we encrypt, obviously. The last one, so that one is the optional one, when we have a recoverable wallet. We store it, we encrypt it, and we store it in a vault. So all of the parts go in a vault. But what vault? We use a special kind of vault. It's actually a third-party product. It's from HashiCorp. You probably have heard about HashiCorp before because they have different products, but Vault is their main one. Basically what it is, it's a secure secret management. You could store secrets. You can do a lot more. You can encrypt without knowing a key. You can create entropy. It's a fantastic product. It can be sealed and unsealed. So by default, when it's when you start it, it's sealed. So you need a few keys to unseal it. It's an admin process, and you can seal it in case of an emergency, like a hack. And it has tight access control, which means you can define what applications can access which secrets. So we have a lot of microservices. And some can access the application secret, some can access the user secret with a PIN code. But we have a different product from HashiCorp also. It's called a Console, and I think this one is also pretty famous. Why we chose it in the first place is because we wanted high availability. The Vault by default is not highly available, but when used in conjunction with the Console, it is. It can also be used for service discovery. All of our microservices use Java and service discovery. We have a big pool of microservices, so it's extremely helpful. And it also has a tight access control based on tokens. So what does it look like? We have quite some vaults available. We run our microservices on AWS, so we have a lot of vaults in different regions, so we never have downtime on that one. And an entire network of console servers, which are just connected. So now you know how we store the secrets, but how do we create a signature out of it? So like you saw in the demo, the user enters his PIN code, we decrypt it with a salt. So that's the first secret. And then we have the second secret, which is part of our signer module. We combine the two secrets. And because we have a threshold scheme, so the Shamir secret scheme, we can create the password. We can reconstruct it. The password plus the key store, which is also located in the vault, combined, they can create the private key or reconstruct the private key. And you can use the private key design. But this is all happening in memory, so we never store the secret key anywhere unencrypted. Okay, so now we're going to give a small live coding demo. I see we have about 17 minutes left. I have 2 demos prepared, but maybe one would be enough.
Yeah, I think so.
If you want, you can follow. It's on GitHub. It's going to be the DevOps demo that I'm going to give. The truffle demo is not really with zero knowledge. You need some prior knowledge in Ethereum to be able to follow. So let's start it. But I just saw we don't have internet yet, so. Let me see. Should be good. All right. So what I've prepared here is a small application. I'll run it. This is the initial application, the initial state. All right, here. So this is entirely hard-coded at this point. We're going to make it blockchain agnostic. Well, we're going to implement Arcane, Arcane Connect, so we can actually see my wallets, the wallets I have on Arcane, on our staging environment. And then we're going to add some transactions, which can be Ethereum and VeChain at this point. We're planning on implementing multiple chains, but at this point it's Ethereum and VeChain. And if you want to do this natively, like you want to do an Ethereum transaction or a VeChain transaction, it's going to be extremely complex for the first time. But as you'll see, because we implemented the APIs and we have our own API, we'll be able to do this in a simple fashion. So at this point, we can't do this yet without Arcane. So the first thing we'll do, this is the documentation of Arcane Connect. It's one of our modules. And this right here, I hope you can see this. No? So what I prepared here is some basic functions, which at this point you can see wallets hard-coded, my name hard-coded, and the transactions not implemented yet. When we go to the documentation, we can easily see how do we create. We first have to add it as a library, which I'll do. All right, so it's an NPM package for easy distribution. There we go, we added it. And we first have to create an instance of Arcane Connect. So there's a few options here, which chains we want to support, which environment we're using, and our application. So we prepared a DevOps client, so we could easily test this. You can also test this at home in our staging environment. Only local hosts will be supported. So we can take this example, create a new instance of Arcane Connect, and we can leave the defaults just for the purpose of the demo, but we're going to change this one to DevOps. So now we have an instance. And what do we need to do? The first thing, we need to authenticate or check if we are authenticated. So this is the documentation, but I'll just do it live. It's going to be a bit easier. So Arcane Connect. We're going to check the authenticated. Wait, check authenticated, yes. And then that's going to return a promise where we can see if we're authenticated or not. So let's just check the promise. It's authenticated. And the callback. With an authentication object, and a different one with not authenticated. All right, I think you missed something here.
Yeah.
Here. Cheers. So if we're not authenticated, we're going to authenticate. I know why it wasn't working. It's going to be better, yeah. So we're going to authenticate. Let's check our application. There we go. So it asks to log in. Or see, it's Devox. I've prepared an account. With an easy password. Which is not correct. There we go. Nope. My bad. All right, so we've seen it in the demo before of the Thor block. It asks for permission to Devox, which we'll allow, obviously. And then it asks for which account we want to link. With this account, I only have Noble Iguana, so add it, come back. All right, we're authenticated. Can we check this? We can. We're gonna remove this part, which is the hard-coded part of the wallets. Arcane Connect, get wallets. And we're gonna fetch all the wallets. This is also in the documentation. Documentation doesn't matter. Let's see what comes up. Nothing much. Because we still have to put this one here when we are authenticated, obviously. So it fetches the wallets from Torblock and from Arcane, and we can see them here. So what we want to do now is implement, because we have 7 minutes left. It's got to be quick. We're going to implement a transaction. So we're going to send from one account to another. As you can see, I don't have any balance right here, so I prepared a second account with some wallets, VeChain and Ethereum wallets, so I'm going to log in there. Which means I first have to log out here. As you can see, Noble Iguana, that was that account. There we go. We can log in here. Let's take the second account. So here we can see the wallets of this person. He has 2 Ethereum wallets and 2 VeChain wallets, which we can see right here. And now we can implement this method to send from one account to another. If you want to do this for Ethereum or for VeChain, it's in the documentation, but if you want to do it natively, you need to know a lot of things. You need to know a lot of blockchain specific things, the block graph, the chain tag, the expiration. If you're new to blockchain, this is just hell, because this is just Ethereum and VeChain, and VeChain is a sort of clone of Ethereum. So if you want something entirely differently, like Bitcoin, for example, it's going to be even more complex. So that's why we created a special API to build a transaction and to execute it. So what this does here Arcane Connect build transaction request. It does a lot of magic behind the scenes, and then it returns an object which we can then execute and simply submit to the blockchain. I'm just going to copy this one because we don't have that much time anymore. We also need to create a signer. So I'll edit this part here. It's the part where we do the transaction. Copy it. We'll remove this one. Actually, we'll use this one. And we'll add it to the result. In the text, let's do result.transaction hash. Because that's going to be the result of our transaction. We're going to submit it, and Arcane Connect will return a transaction hash, which we can follow on the blockchain. The only thing I'm going to change here is the wallet ID, because I already know which wallet I'm going to use. That's not going to be Ethereum, that's going to be secret type, because we also have, I already prepared them here. But we also use VeChain, for example, in our demo, and then the two already prepared it, and we're going to send 0.1 of whatever currency we're using. So back to our demo, I'm going to refresh. Fetches my wallets. And normally, so I want to send from this account. So from the last account to the first account, send one magical internet money. And then we see the pop-up like we saw them in Thorblock. We just have to enter our PIN code, the correct PIN code, and it will execute the transaction. Well, that's a success. Didn't change the icon. So this is our transaction hash, which we could check on the blockchain. But I'm just going to refresh. So it was 7 and 0.9. And now we have 7.1. So in just, I think, 2 minutes, we created a transaction, send it to the blockchain, and have our response back. If you want to do this natively, I think you'll be good for a few hours if you want to know how everything works. So this makes it very easy to create new applications, not just wallets, but also new explorers, new like pools, like we did with Thorblock, new pool applications. But the possibilities are endless.
Nicely said.
All right. Slideshow. Ah, damn.
So to conclude, I will quickly go over it. So only Ethereum projects with Arcane, it's easy to go to multiple blockchains. It's way easier to do the user onboarding. It's just creating an account and doing all and just using a PIN and all that, like users are used to right now. You can have in-application transfers done quite easily. Focus on coin price, focus on the network. Lemon coin, well, I think that we demonstrated that it's actually quite easy to do with Arcane. So you can join today. Actually, just go to developer.arcane.network and then you can try this out, and then we will provide you with all the documentations on this. It can be like creating an application like this, or if you want to create SDKs like in Java or in Swift, we don't have them yet, so it might be interesting as well if you want to create this. So everybody's welcome. And then I don't think we have that much time for questions, but we will definitely be here outside. So there's one question or no? So we will be here outside, and then you can ask questions. So thank you very much for your attention.